The stars looked wrong. Commander Zix Theta had been patrolling this sector of space for 30 years, and he knew every star, every asteroid, every speck of cosmic dust. But today something was different. His four eyes narrowed as he studied the sensor readings on his command ship, the Golden Talon. "Sir," his navigation officer said, her blue scales turning pale with worry. "We're detecting an energy signature near the Sol system quarantine zone." Zix Theta's tentacles tightened around his command chair. The Sol system, home to a primitive species called humans, had been marked off limits by the Galactic Council 50 years ago. The humans were still stuck on their planet, barely managing to send tiny metal cans to their own moon. They weren't supposed to have anything that could create energy signatures visible from 3 light-years away. "Show me," he ordered. The main screen flickered to life, and every being on the bridge froze. There, floating in space where no ship should be, was a vessel that made no sense. It was huge, bigger than any Varanian dreadnought, with a design that looked like someone had taken pieces from a dozen different species' ships and welded them together with no regard for beauty or logic. The ship was painted black, but not the sleek black of Varanian stealthcraft. This was the black of burned metal and old iron. Along its hull, someone had painted a snarling face with too many teeth, and underneath it, words in the human language. "UTS Defiance, mess with Earth, get buried in it." That's impossible," the science officer whispered. "Humans don't have faster-than-light travel. They don't even have fusion power." Zix Theta stood up slowly, all 4 of his eyes fixed on the screen. "Open a channel. All frequencies." The communication system crackled to life. For a moment there was only static. Then a voice came through, speaking perfect galactic standard with a strange accent. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Terran Starship Defiance. You're approaching Earth defensive space. Please state your intentions." The bridge erupted in chaos. Officers shouted over each other, trying to make sense of what they were hearing. A human speaking their language from a ship that shouldn't exist. Zix Theta raised a tentacle for silence. "Captain Chen, this is Commander Zix Theta of the Galactic Council Patrol Fleet. Your species is under quarantine. You are not supposed to have space travel technology. Explain yourself." There was a pause. Then, unbelievably, the human laughed. "Oh, that old quarantine? Yeah, we know about that. Funny story, actually. One of your scout ships crashed in New Mexico back in 1973. Your pilot didn't make it, but the ship was mostly intact. We've been reverse engineering your tech for 50 years now. Thanks for the head start, by the way." The science officer's scanner started beeping frantically. "Commander, I'm reading their power signatures and they don't make sense. They're using a Council-designed fusion reactor, but it's connected to what looks like a hegemony warp drive. And there's something else I can't identify. It's like they've taken incompatible technologies and just forced them to work together." "That's not possible," Zix Theta said automatically. "Different species technologies can't be integrated. The physics don't allow it." Captain Chen's voice came through again, and this time there was steel in it. "You know what's funny about you advanced species? You always say things are impossible. We humans have a saying, the impossible just takes a little longer. Would you like to come aboard and see for yourself?" Zix Theta's security chief, a massive reptilian Cranox, hissed in alarm. "It could be a trap, Commander." But Zix Theta was curious now. In 30 years of patrol, he'd never encountered anything like this. "Captain Chen, you realize that revealing yourselves violates Council law? Your entire planet could be destroyed for this." "Could be," Chen replied casually. "But here's the thing, Commander. We've been listening to your communications for decades. We know about your Council. We know about the Hegemony Alliance. We know about the war you've been fighting for 300 years, and we decided it was time to introduce ourselves properly. You've been listening to encrypted Council communications." "Encrypted? Oh, right. Yeah, we cracked those codes about 20 years ago. Your math is good, but you make some assumptions about prime numbers that aren't quite right. Our quantum computers figured it out pretty quick." The bridge was silent now. Every officer was staring at the screen, at the impossible human ship that hung in space like a challenge to everything they thought they knew. "Captain Chen," Zix Theta said slowly, "I'm going to need to report this to the Council. They will want to send a full diplomatic fleet." "That's fine," Chen replied. "But Commander, before you do that, you might want to know something. The Defiance isn't our only ship. We've got about 50 more just like her, hiding in places you haven't thought to look. We didn't build them to attack anyone. We built them because we figured one day you'd find us and we wanted to be ready to talk as equals. The tactical officer suddenly spoke up, his voice shaking. Commander, I'm detecting gravitational anomalies around their ship. They're manipulating gravity fields. That technology was banned by the Council 500 years ago as too dangerous. Banned? Chen sounded genuinely surprised. We just thought it was tricky to work with. Took us a few years to figure out the math, but our guy Rodriguez down in engineering has a real talent for it. He says it's all about thinking in 11 dimensions instead of 4. Zix Theta felt his hearts beating faster. Both of them. These humans had taken crash technology, figured out encrypted communications, built a fleet in secret, and mastered a science that the most advanced species in the galaxy had abandoned as too dangerous. Captain Chen, I need to ask you something, he said carefully. Your species is classified as level 2, barely industrial. How did you achieve all this in 50 years? There was another pause, and when Chen spoke again, Zix Theta could hear the smile in her voice. Commander, you made one big mistake when you classified us. You looked at our technology and thought that was all we were. But humans have something you didn't measure. We're stubborn. Tell us something's impossible, and we'll work all night to prove you wrong. Give us a puzzle and we won't stop until we solve it. And most importantly, we're really, really good at war. It's kind of our thing. We've been practicing on each other for thousands of years. The scanner beeped again. The science officer's scales had turned completely white now. Commander, more ships are appearing. 10, 20, 30 human vessels, all with the same impossible technology configuration. Zix Theta sat back down heavily. The galaxy had just become a much more complicated place. The humans weren't just out of quarantine. They had arrived on the galactic stage with technology that shouldn't exist, knowledge they shouldn't have, and a fleet that had appeared from nowhere. Captain Chen, he said finally, I'm sending a message to the Council now. They'll want to meet with you. Looking forward to it, Chen replied. Oh, and Commander? You might want to tell them to come peacefully. We've been watching your wars for years, studying your tactics, your weapons, your weaknesses. We're not looking for a fight, but if someone brings one to our door, well, Earth has a long history of ending fights others start. The channel closed, leaving the bridge of the Golden Talon in stunned silence. Zix Theta looked at his crew, seeing his own shock reflected in their faces. Sir, the communications officer said quietly. What do I tell the Council? Zix Theta was quiet for a long moment, staring at the impossible human ship on his screen. Then he spoke, his voice heavy with the weight of what he was about to say. Tell them that humanity is no longer contained. Tell them that everything we thought we knew about technological development is wrong. And tell them. He paused, his 4 eyes fixed on the grinning skull painted on the human ship's hull. Tell them that the humans are ready to talk. As he watched, more human ships continued to appear, each one an impossibility, each one a challenge to the established order of the galaxy. The age of human isolation was over. The age of human participation had begun. Dr. Malvor had seen many strange things in his 200 years of life. He had studied the ancient ruins on Kepler 442b, decoded the mathematics of collapsed civilizations, and even figured out how the mysterious void gates worked. But nothing had prepared him for the inside of a human warship. This shouldn't be working, he said for the 5th time, his 3 hands running over the engine readings. This absolutely should not be working. Chief Engineer Rodriguez, a stocky human with grease-stained coveralls and an easy smile, shrugged. Yeah, people keep saying that. But look, it's running just fine. He patted the engine housing like it was a pet. She purrs like a kitten when you treat her right. Malvor's large eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of extreme confusion among his species. Around him, the other members of the Galactic Council inspection team were having similar reactions. The Kree scientist had been chosen to lead this team because of his reputation for understanding impossible technologies. But this was beyond impossible. The engine room of the Defiance looked like someone's garage project that had gotten wildly out of hand. There were 3 different types of faster-than-light drives connected by what appeared to be copper pipes and duct tape. Actual duct tape, the silver kind that humans apparently use to fix everything. You see, Rodriguez explained, leading them deeper into the engine room. Everyone said you can't mix Council tech with hegemony tech, something about incompatible quantum frequencies. But we figured, hey, frequency is just vibration, right? So we built this little adapter here. He pointed to a box that looked like it had been welded together from spare parts. Inside, Malvor could see crystals from at least 4 different species technology, all humming at different frequencies but somehow producing a stable harmonic. That's a Varanian power crystal next to a hegemony flux capacitor, Malvor said weakly. They should explode if they're within 10 meters of each other. Oh, they tried to, Rodriguez said cheerfully. Blew up the first 16 prototypes. But then Jenny from quantum physics had this idea. If we rotate them in opposite directions at exactly 3,000 to 247 RPM, while cooling them with liquid nitrogen mixed with Coca-Cola, they stabilize. Coca-Cola? The Thraxian engineer beside Malvor made a strangled sound. You're using a beverage to cool critical engine components? Well, yeah. The phosphoric acid helps with heat transfer, and the sugar creates a crystalline matrix when it freezes that dampens vibrations. Plus, it was Jenny's lunch and we were out of proper coolant that day. It worked so well we just kept using it. Captain Chen entered the engine room, followed by Commander Zix Theta and several council diplomats. She was smaller than most of the aliens, but she walked with a confidence that made her seem larger. How's the tour going, Rodriguez? She asked. Just showing them the gravity drive, Rodriguez replied. They seem a bit shocked. The gravity drive that was banned for being too dangerous, Malvor said, his voice rising. The one that destroyed 3 planets during testing 500 years ago? Chen nodded. We read about that in your historical records. Your people were trying to create artificial black holes, right? Yeah, that's way too dangerous. We just use it to bend space a little bit. Much safer. But the mathematics alone should take centuries to calculate, Malvor protested. Oh, it did take a while, Chen admitted. About 6 months. But we had a few advantages. First, we had 500 college students work on it as their thesis projects. Nothing motivates a human like trying to graduate. Second, we used our gaming computers. Gaming computers? Zix Theta's translator struggled with the word. Yeah, machines we built to play video games. Turns out the same processors that can render 1 billion polygons per second for a game about shooting zombies are really good at calculating gravitational field equations. Who knew? Malvor walked over to another section of the engine room, where a massive weapon system was housed. His scanner went crazy as he approached it. This is reading as an antimatter cannon, but the containment field is... Is that magnetic tape? Oh yeah, the weapon system, Rodriguez said proudly. We couldn't figure out your containment fields at first. Too complex, so we went old school. Electromagnetic containment using superconducting magnets wrapped in tape from audio cassettes. The iron oxide in the tape creates a perfect barrier at super low temperatures. Audio cassettes? Ancient human technology for playing music. We had millions of them sitting in storage. Turns out they're perfect for containing antimatter. Plus, if you play them afterwards, they make this really cool screaming sound. One of the council diplomats, a tall, thin being with crystalline skin, stepped forward. Captain Chen, I must ask. Your species has had spaceflight for barely 100 years. How did you make these connections? How did you even think to try combining incompatible technologies? Chen smiled. Have you ever heard of something called modding? The aliens exchanged confused looks. It's something humans do for fun, Chen explained. We take things that work perfectly fine and we change them, combine them with other things, make them do things they were never designed to do. Video games, cars, computers, toasters. If it exists, some human somewhere has modified it to do something crazy. Toasters? Malvor asked weakly. Small devices for browning bread, Chen said. Humans have modified them to play music, connect to the internet, and in one case achieve low Earth orbit. The point is, we don't see limitations the way you do. You see incompatible technologies. We see a challenge. Rodriguez led them to another section, where a young human woman with bright pink hair was working on what looked like a sensor array. This is Dr. Jennifer Park, our quantum physics lead. Jennifer looked up and waved. Oh, hey, you must be the inspection team. Want to see something cool? Without waiting for an answer, she activated the array. Suddenly, the inspection team could see through the walls of the ship, through space itself, observing energy patterns from thousands of light years away. That's impossible, Malvor said, though the word was starting to lose meaning. You can't see faster than light. You can't, Jennifer agreed. But quantum entanglement doesn't care about light speed. We took your communication system, figured out how you were using quantum pairs, and thought, hey, if we can send information instantly, why not receive it instantly too? And it took some work with parallel universes, but we got there. Parallel universes? Six Theta's voice was faint. Oh yeah, we tap into about 17 different dimensions for power and information. It's perfectly safe as long as we don't tap into the one where everything is spiders. We learned that the hard way. Malvor's scanner was recording everything, but he knew no one back at the council would believe this. The humans hadn't just copied alien technology. They had taken it apart, understood it in ways its creators never had, and rebuilt it according to rules that shouldn't exist. Show them the best part, Chen said to Rodriguez. The engineer grinned and led them to a sealed door marked with warnings in multiple languages. He opened it carefully, revealing a small chamber with a single red button under a glass case. What is that? Malvor asked, though he was afraid of the answer. That, Rodriguez said proudly, is the quantum flux destabilizer. If someone attacks us and we can't win, we press this button. It causes our engine to exist in all possible states simultaneously, including the state where it explodes with the force of a supernova and the state where it doesn't exist at all. That would destroy everything within a light year. Yeah, but it would also not destroy it. Quantum mechanics is weird like that. The enemy would be both dead and alive until someone observes them, at which point they're definitely dead. The inspection team stood in horrified silence. The humans had weaponized Schrodinger's cat. This is insane, Malvor said finally. Your entire ship is held together by improvisation, impossible physics, and beverages. It should not exist. Chen nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right. According to your science, our ship is impossible. But here's the thing about humans, Dr. Malvor. We've been doing impossible things since we figured out how to fly. People said we couldn't break the sound barrier, couldn't go to space, couldn't split the atom. But we did all those things. And now we're here, in a ship that can't exist, having a conversation that shouldn't be happening. She gestured around the engine room, at the impossible mixture of technologies humming with power. You study the universe to understand its rules. We study the universe to find the loopholes. Admiral Korthax of the Hegemony Alliance had never lost a battle. In 200 years of warfare, his tactical genius had crushed the Council forces again and again. His fleet of 200 warships had turned entire systems to ash, so when his scouts reported a single human vessel near the disputed zone, he laughed. The laugh echoed through the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Hope. His officers joined in, their various forms of amusement creating a chorus of superiority. One ship? Korthax said, his forearms gesturing dismissively. These humans reveal themselves with one ship? How amusing. His tactical officer pulled up the scan data. It's the vessel the Council is inspecting, Admiral. The one they call Defiance. Our spies say it has impossible technology, but still it's just one ship against our entire fleet. Korthax studied the image. The human vessel was large, yes, but his fleet had destroyed larger. Send a message. Tell them they have one chance to surrender their technology to the hegemony. If they refuse, we take it from their wreckage. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Chen received the message with her usual calm. Around her, the bridge crew of 30 humans worked at their stations. Not a trace of fear on their faces. Sir, 200 hegemony vessels on approach vector, Lieutenant Jackson reported. They'll be in weapons range in 6 minutes. Chen nodded and opened a channel to engineering. Rodriguez, warm up the quantum multiplication system. Already on it, Captain. Jenny says the parallel dimensions are looking stable today. We should be able to maintain multiplication for about 15 minutes before reality gets cranky. Chen turned to her weapons officer, a young man named David who had once been a professional gamer. David, load the weird stuff. David grinned. The weird stuff. My favorite. The channel from the hegemony crackled to life again. Admiral Korthax appeared on screen, his insectoid features arranged in what his species considered a smile. Human, I'm Admiral Korthax. Your council friends cannot protect you here. Surrender now or be destroyed. Chen leaned back in her chair. Admiral, I need to explain something about humans. We have this thing called video games. Entertainment where we fight simulated battles. And there's this one scenario that appears in many of our games. One hero against an army. Do you know what happens in those games? Your fiction is irrelevant, Korthax snarled. The hero wins, Chen continued as if he hadn't spoken. Every time. Because the hero always has something the army doesn't expect. Rodriguez engaged quantum multiplication. What happened next broke the minds of every tactical officer in the hegemony fleet. The Defiance flickered. Then it split. Not like a ship launching fighters, but like reality had developed a stutter. Suddenly there were 2 ships, then 4, then 8. Within seconds, 64 versions of the Defiance hung in space, each one reading as completely real on every sensor. Illusions, Korthak shouted. Fire on all of them! His fleet opened fire, hundreds of energy beams and missiles streaking through space. They hit 12 of the human ships, which exploded in very real explosions, but the other 52 returned fire, and their weapons were definitely not illusions. On the Defiance's bridge, Chen watched the tactical display with interest. See, the thing about quantum mechanics is that observation changes reality. When they shoot at us, they're observing us, which collapses some of our quantum states. But until they observe us, we exist in multiple states simultaneously. Captain, David called out. They're adapting. They're spreading their fire pattern. Time for the weird stuff then. Fire the logic bombs. The Defiance and all its quantum duplicates launched what looked like ordinary missiles. The hegemony ships shot most of them down easily, but the ones that got through didn't explode. Instead, they attached to the hegemony hulls and started broadcasting. What are they doing? Korthax demanded. His science officer was frantically working his console. Admiral, they're sending mathematics into our computers, but it's wrong mathematics. Equations that equal infinity, divisions by zero, paradoxes that... Every computer on every hegemony ship started screaming. Not alarms, but actual screaming as their artificial intelligences tried to process impossible mathematics and went insane. They're attacking our computers with paradoxes, the science officer reported. Our systems are shutting down to prevent complete logic cascade failure. Half the hegemony fleet suddenly lost power as their computers committed digital suicide rather than continue processing human mathematics. Chen opened a channel to the hegemony fleet. Admiral, have you ever heard of something called a divide by zero error? It's an old Earth problem. We figured out how to weaponize it. Your computers are very advanced, which means they really hate paradoxes. More quantum duplicates of the Defiance appeared, these ones firing weapons that seemed to ignore shields entirely. Hegemony ships started exploding from the inside as human weapons materialized inside their hulls. How? Korthax roared. Quantum tunneling, Chen explained helpfully. There's a very small chance that our weapons will spontaneously appear inside your ships instead of outside. We just convinced that small chance to become a large chance. It's all about asking the universe nicely. The battle, if it could be called that, was becoming a slaughter. The human ship was everywhere and nowhere, firing weapons that shouldn't exist, using tactics that violated the very laws of warfare that had governed space combat for millennia. Admiral, his tactical officer screamed. They're doing something to space itself. Outside, space around the hegemony fleet was starting to twist. Not like a black hole, but like reality was being folded into origami. Ships found themselves suddenly facing the wrong direction, or upside down relative to the galactic plane, or in one unfortunate case, inside out. We call this the MC Escher maneuver, Chen said conversationally, named after an artist who really understood that space. Doesn't have to make sense if you're creative. Enough. Korthax watched in horror as a third of his fleet tried to retreat, but found themselves flying towards the human ship instead. The geometry of space had been twisted so that every direction led back to the Defiance. Impossible, he shouted. You people really need to stop using that word, Chen replied. It's limiting your tactical options. David, show them the thing we learned from zombie games. The weapons officer's fingers danced over his console. Deploying infection protocol. One hegemony ship suddenly turned and fired on its neighbor. Then that ship did the same. Within minutes, 20 hegemony vessels were shooting at each other. Their IFF systems corrupted by what the humans called a zombie virus. It spreads through your communication system, David explained over the comm. Every ship that receives a message from an infected ship gets infected too. The only way to stop it is to cut communications completely. But then you can't coordinate. Korthax watched his perfect fleet dissolve into chaos, ships firing on each other, others trapped in twisted space, still others floating dead as their computers had self-destructed rather than accept human logic. We surrender, he finally screamed. We surrender. Instantly, all the quantum duplicates of the Defiance collapsed back into a single ship. Space untwisted itself. The infected ships stopped firing. In less than a second, the battlefield returned to normal, except for the 43 hegemony ships that were now debris. Chen appeared on his screen, calm as ever. Admiral, here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave. You're going to go back to hegemony space and you're going to tell them that humans are not to be messed with. If you come back, we'll show you what we really learned from our games. The stuff we didn't use today because it wouldn't be sporting. Sporting? Korthax's voice was weak. Oh yes, this was us being nice. We have weapons based on horror games that would make your crew eat each other. We have tactics from strategy games that would turn your own biology against you. We have ideas from science fiction that would make your species wish it had never evolved. But we didn't use them. Because humans try to be civilized when we can. She leaned forward and for the first time, Korthax saw what humans really were. Not primitive beings playing with stolen technology, but apex predators who had turned warfare into entertainment and then weaponized that entertainment. Leave now, Admiral. And remember, we've been practicing war against ourselves for thousands of years. You've been fighting the same war for 300 years. Who do you think is better at it? The hegemony fleet, or what was left of it, turned and fled. They jumped to faster than light the moment their drives were ready, leaving behind their dead and a very clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was not to be underestimated. The Grand Council chamber had never been so quiet. 500 representatives from every major species in the galaxy sat in stunned silence, watching the holographic replay of the hegemony fleet's destruction. The image of Admiral Korthax's face, twisted in terror as he fled, hung in the air like an accusation. Supreme Counselor Vexara, ancient even by her species' standards, finally spoke. Her voice carried the weight of 2,000 years of wisdom and diplomacy. The humans must be eliminated. The words fell into the chamber like stones into still water, sending ripples of agreement through the assembled beings. The Kratos delegation roared their approval. The crystalline shapers chimed in harmony. Even the usually peaceful gardeners rustled their leaves in consent. Only Commander Zix Theta, who had been called to testify, remained silent. The humans are too dangerous, Vexara continued. They have violated every law of technological development. They have weaponized concepts we abandoned as too hazardous. They must be stopped before they destabilize the entire galaxy. With respect, Supreme Counselor, Zix Theta said, his 4 eyes meeting her ancient gaze. Have you watched their broadcasts? Their entertainment signals? What bearing does that have on everything? Zix Theta interrupted, something he had never done before. I've spent the last 72 hours studying human history and culture. What I've learned terrifies me more than their weapons. He activated his personal projector, showing images from Earth's broadcasts. This is from something they call World War II, a conflict where they killed millions of their own species. They developed atomic weapons and used them on their own cities. And this was before they had space travel. The images shifted. This is from their fiction. Stories they tell for entertainment. Look at what they imagine. The chamber watched scenes from human movies and shows. Aliens invading Earth only to be defeated by human ingenuity. Robots turning against their creators. Viruses that turned people into monsters. Wars that destroyed entire planets, don't you see? Zix Theta said. Every terrible thing we can imagine they've already thought of. And worse, they've thought of how to beat it. They create these scenarios for fun. Their children play games where they destroy entire civilizations before breakfast. All the more reason to destroy them now. Counselor Vexara said coldly. That's what I thought too, Zix Theta admitted, until I learned about something called mutually assured destruction. On the Defiance, Captain Chen stood before a massive view screen showing Earth and its solar system. Around her, the senior staff of humanity's secret space force had gathered. Admiral Harrison, a gray-haired man who had been preparing for this moment for 30 years, stood beside her. They're mobilizing, Harrison said quietly. Every council fleet is heading for Earth. Chen nodded. Just like the war games predicted. How long until they arrive? 6 days if they push their drives to maximum. Perfect. That gives us time for the reveal. Open a channel to the council. Maximum encryption, but make sure they can decrypt it. We want them to hear this. The channel opened and Chen knew that somewhere in space, council intelligence officers were frantically working to decode the signal. Within minutes, they would be listening. Earth Command, this is Captain Chen. The council has taken the bait. Initiate revelation protocol. Back in the council chamber, the intelligence officer's scales turned white. Supreme Counselor, we've intercepted a human transmission. Play it. Chen's voice filled the chamber. Citizens of Earth, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Force. Today we reveal the truth. For 50 years we have been preparing, not for first contact, but for the war that would follow. The transmission showed images of Earth's moon, but as the camera zoomed in, the Council representatives gasped. The entire lunar surface was covered in weapons. Mass drivers that could launch asteroids at significant fractions of light speed. Missile silos that seemed to go down to the moon's core. Our moon is no longer a moon, Chen's voice continued. It's the largest weapons platform in the galaxy. The image shifted to Mars. The red planet was covered in shipyards, each one building vessels like the Defiance. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Mars has been converted into our primary military base. Current fleet strength, 3,000 vessels, all equipped with quantum multiplication technology. Jupiter appeared next. Its moons had been hollowed out, turned into massive production facilities. Jupiter's moons produce antimatter at a rate of 12 kilograms per day. Enough to sterilize a solar system every week. The council chamber erupted in panic, but the transmission wasn't done. But here's the real secret, Chen said, and now her face appeared on screen. Everything I just showed you? It's only half of what we have. The other half is hidden in dimensions you haven't discovered yet, places between reality where we've built weapons you can't imagine. Admiral Harrison's face replaced Chen's. This is Admiral Harrison, Supreme Commander of Earth Forces. We know you're listening, Council. We know you're coming to destroy us, so let me explain what happens if you try. A new image appeared. It showed the galaxy itself, with pulsing red dots scattered throughout it. For the past 20 years, we've been seeding quantum bombs throughout the galaxy. They're smaller than atoms, hidden in the quantum foam of space itself. If Earth falls, they activate. The chain reaction would unravel space-time itself, starting at Earth and expanding at the speed of light. The entire galaxy would cease to exist within 10,000 years. The council chamber was in chaos now. Representatives were screaming, arguing, some trying to leave. "You're insane," Vexara shouted at the transmission, though she knew they couldn't hear her. But Harrison wasn't done. "We call it the Samson option. If we die, everyone dies. But here's the thing, Council. We don't want to use it. We don't want to fight you. We want to join you." The image changed to show human children playing with alien toys, human scientists working on medical technology, human artists creating beauty. "We know we're dangerous," Harrison admitted. "We evolved on a death world. We've been killing each other for millennia, but we've also been learning to work together, learning to choose peace over war. We could be the galaxy's worst nightmare, or we could be its guardian. The choice is yours." Chen appeared again. "You have 6 days to decide. Attack Earth and everyone dies. Accept us. And we'll share our technology, our creativity, our determination to protect those who can't protect themselves. We'll be the guard dogs of the galaxy, the ones who stand between civilization and chaos." The transmission shifted to show human history, the worst of it and the best, wars and peace, destruction and creation. "We are humanity," Chen said. "We are chaos and order, creation and destruction, dreams and nightmares. We have looked into the abyss of our own nature and chosen to be better. Not perfect, but better. Give us a chance to prove it." The transmission ended with coordinates, a meeting place, neutral ground where humanity would wait for the Council's answer. In the Council chamber, Vexara slumped in her chair. Around her, representatives argued and shouted. Some demanded immediate attack. Others counseled caution. A few, like Zix Theta, stood silent, understanding the real truth. "They've already won," Zix Theta said quietly. Vexara looked at him. "What do you mean?" "Don't you see? They've made it impossible for us to attack. But more than that, they've shown us what they really are. They're not conquerors. They're survivors. They've survived their own nature, their own planet, their own weapons. And now they're offering to help us survive too." He pulled up the data on human conflicts, but also on human cooperation, the times they had come together against common threats. The International Space Station. The collaboration to cure diseases. The united response to natural disasters. They fight each other constantly, he said. But when faced with an external threat, they unite instantly. They've been preparing for an alien invasion their entire existence. And now that they've met us, they're offering to turn that preparation into protection. Protection from what? Vexara asked. Zix Theta met her gaze. From whatever is out there that we haven't met yet. The humans assume there are worse things in the universe because they can't imagine worse things. What if they're right? The meeting place was an old space station at the edge of neutral space, abandoned for centuries. Now it hosted the most important gathering in galactic history. On one side sat the council delegation, 500 representatives of the galaxy's eldest races. On the other, 30 humans who would decide the fate of their species. Captain Chen stood at the center, flanked by Admiral Harrison, and a woman nobody had introduced yet. She was small, elderly, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much. She wore no uniform, just a simple black suit with a small pin that read, Dr. Elizabeth Weiss, Director, Project Lazarus. Supreme Counselor Vexara spoke first. You have threatened the entire galaxy with extinction. How can we possibly trust you? Chen stepped forward. Because we threatened you with extinction instead of just doing it. If we wanted you dead, would we warn you? Would we give you time to prepare? Would we meet with you? You could be bluffing, the hegemony representative snarled. They had been allowed to attend, their defeat still fresh. The elderly woman, Dr. Weiss, spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, but it carried. Would you like a demonstration? Without waiting for an answer, she pulled out a small device no bigger than a pen. She pressed a button. In the space outside the station, a dead moon that had orbited there for millennia simply ceased. Not exploded, not destroyed. It just stopped existing, leaving only empty space where it had been. That moon had a mass of approximately 70 quintillion kilograms, Dr. Weiss said calmly. The device I just activated deleted it from reality. We have 12 billion similar devices hidden throughout the galaxy. Would you like me to demonstrate on something larger? The silence was deafening. But, Dr. Weiss continued, putting the device away, we're not here to threaten. We're here to make a deal. Admiral Harrison activated a hologram showing the galaxy. The Council and the hegemony have been fighting for 300 years. Neither side can win. Your war has killed trillions, destroyed thousands of worlds, and for what? Territory? Resources? Pride? Red dots appeared throughout the galaxy, marking war zones. Humanity proposes a different solution. We become the peacekeepers. Any aggression between Council and hegemony forces triggers human intervention. We have the technology to appear anywhere instantly, the firepower to end any battle, and the will to enforce peace. You would make yourselves our masters, Vexara said coldly. No, Chen said firmly. We would make ourselves your guardians. There's a difference, look. She activated another hologram. It showed human ships responding to various scenarios. Natural disasters on alien worlds with human vessels providing aid. Pirates attacking merchant ships with human forces intervening. Unknown threats from outside the galaxy, with humanity standing as the first line of defense. We don't want to rule, Chen explained. Ruling is boring. We want to explore, to learn, to grow. But we also want a stable galaxy to do it in. Your wars make that impossible. And if we refuse? The Kratos warlord asked. Chen sighed. Then we leave. Everyone stared at her. We leave, she repeated. We take our ships, our technology, and our people, and we leave this galaxy. We have the technology to travel between galaxies now. We'll find a new home. But before we go, we'll activate the quantum bombs. Not to destroy you immediately, but to start a countdown. In exactly 100 years, they'll detonate. That gives you a century to either figure out how to stop them or evacuate the galaxy yourselves. That's monstrous, someone whispered. No, Dr. Weiss said. Monstrous is fighting the same war for 3 centuries while children starve on border worlds. Monstrous is having the power to explore the universe but wasting it on destroying each other. We're offering you a choice. Peace with us here, or eventual extinction without us. Commander Zixa Theta, who had remained quiet, finally spoke. I've studied your history. You've done this before, haven't you? This exact scenario, Chen smiled slightly. Nuclear weapons on Earth. Every major nation got them and suddenly major wars stopped. Not because we became better people, but because the consequence of war became too high. Mutually assured destruction, we called it. It kept our peace for long enough to reach the stars. But you're asking us to trust you with absolute power, Vexara said. No, Harrison corrected. We're asking you to trust us with absolute responsibility. There's a difference. Power is taking what you want. Responsibility is protecting what matters. A young human, barely out of adolescence, raised his hand. The aliens looked at him in confusion. This was a galactic negotiation and a child wanted to speak? Chen nodded to him. Go ahead, Marcus. Marcus stood nervously. Hi, I'm Marcus Chen, the captain's son. I'm 17 Earth years old. I wanted to say something, the absurdity of the moment, a child addressing the Galactic Council while the fate of civilizations hung in the balance, was not lost on anyone. I grew up knowing about all of you, Marcus said. My mom told me bedtime stories about the stars, about the different species out there. And you know what? I was excited to meet you all. But then I learned you've been fighting longer than my entire species has existed, and I got sad. He pulled out a small device, projecting images, children's drawings. These are from Earth kids. We told them about you and they drew pictures. Look, this one drew a Voranian and a human playing together. This one imagined a hegemony bug person teaching them to fly. This one wants to learn Kratos martial arts. The crude, colorful drawings floated in the air, innocent depictions of friendship between species that had never met. Kids don't see enemies, Marcus said. They see friends they haven't made yet. Maybe you've been fighting so long you forgot that, but we haven't. We see a galaxy full of people to meet, things to learn, places to explore. Give us a chance to show you what that looks like. He sat down embarrassed. The chamber was quiet. Then, unexpectedly, the hegemony representative laughed. It was a harsh sound like grinding metal, but it was definitely laughter. The child speaks truth, the insectoid being said. We have forgotten. My own larvae will never know peace because we've forgotten how to stop fighting. Vixara looked around the chamber, at her fellow counselors, at the hegemony delegation, at the humans. She saw fear, yes, but also something else, hope. A terrible, dangerous hope that maybe, just maybe, these insane humans could do what centuries of diplomacy had failed to achieve. If we agree, she said slowly, what guarantee do we have that you won't become tyrants? Dr. Weiss stood again. Because we've installed a failsafe. If humanity ever uses its power for conquest rather than protection, the quantum bombs activate immediately. We've literally made it impossible for us to become conquerors. We can only be protectors or we become nothing. You've booby-trapped yourselves? Zixatheta asked in amazement. We know what we're capable of, Chen said seriously. We've seen our own darkness. This is our way of making sure we never give in to it. The vote, when it came, was closer than anyone expected, but in the end, faced with the choice between certain destruction and possible salvation, the galaxy chose hope. The Accords of Soul, as they came to be known, were signed that day. Humanity would join the galactic community not as subjects or conquerors, but as guardians. They would have a permanent seat on the council with veto power over military actions. In return, they would share their technology and protect all species equally. 5 years later, when the first extragalactic invaders arrived, beings of pure energy that consumed entire stars, it was human ships that met them. The galaxy watched in awe as the humans did what they did best. They looked at an impossible enemy and figured out how to beat it. The energy beings were defeated not through firepower, but through a virus that convinced them they didn't exist, a philosophical weapon that only humans could have conceived. In schools across the galaxy, children learned a new lesson, not about the dangers of humanity, but about their strange gift. Humans, the teachers explained, were the species that looked at the impossible and said, challenge accepted. And at the very end of the lesson, in small text that most students ignored but some remembered forever, was a warning that had become the unofficial motto of the new galactic order. Never tell a human something is impossible. They will take it as a personal challenge and they will prove you wrong. This is both humanity's greatest gift and everyone else's greatest fear. Use it wisely. Captain Chen, now Ambassador Chen, stood on the observation deck of the new United Fleet headquarters, watching human and alien children play together in the zero-gravity recreation area. Her son Marcus, now a young man, was teaching Varanian younglings how to play something called tag. Any regrets? Admiral Harrison asked, joining her. Chen smiled. No, we did what humans do best. We took an impossible situation and made it work. With duct tape and determination, Harrison added with a laugh. And a little bit of insanity, Chen agreed. But then again, you have to be a little insane to look at the stars and think we belong there too. Outside the window, the stars continued their eternal dance, but now they seemed less cold, less distant. Humanity had taken its place among them, not as conquerors or subjects, but as the crazy neighbors who fixed things that couldn't be fixed and protected those who needed protecting. The galaxy had become a much stranger place with humans in it. But also, Everyone had to admit a much safer one,